Watson?
He referred to that we could roll this to the next meeting. Do we need a motion of that? Okay, I would like to amend the motion that we roll this to the next meeting where we can get more information to the commission to make a proper decision.
I have an amendment to roll this motion to the next meeting. Do I have a second to that amendment? I have that from Commissioner Woodson. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Is there any discussion from the, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cotton.
In all due respect, I wish we would proceed, but,
Okay.
you know,
I withdraw
that's
it
just, that. No, don't do that. Let's
Oh.
vote on it, because everybody might, I'd rather go on and deal with it than roll it, but let's, don't withdraw it all.
I would prefer to roll it to get more information and more research from staff on what our possibilities are. And
Be happy to provide any additional information we can.
I would think that as it exists now, that if my family was moving outside the state, I would be buying a lifetime license. If this takes effect, we're not gonna have that income. We're gonna have people that maybe occasionally come back that they might buy 3 days, 7 day or whatever. So I just tend to think there is gonna be income loss. That's just my opinion.
There is.
I was gonna make that point. I think the prevalence of people who buy the $200 lifetime license for their children is gonna address a lot of this concern going forward, because it's more popular all the time, I think, so.
And one thing I would just point out there, that the $200 lifetime license is probably a more negative impact on the agency fiscally than allowing another option that would allow these folks to buy annual licenses. Certainly the concerns over what could potentially happen federal funding-wise with some of those licenses. An annual license, as Commissioner Watson has pointed out to me many times, is always a better deal for the agency than a lifetime.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
But it exists. I mean, it's there, so. You know,
Commissioner Ripley?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would support this change that I would refer to as the native son or native daughter change. I think, number one, it honors Native Tennesseans. I think it encourages hunting and use of our resources by those who were born and raised in this state. I think that's a very positive thing, and I think it sends a very, very good message. So I would support it.
Commissioner Watson?
Sorry for this, but I like to, the light doesn't work. I would like to remove my motion. Send it.
Commissioner Woodson?
I will happily remove my second and withdraw. I'm not sure which one, but either one,
Thank
follow
you. Thank you.
Commissioner Watson.
We are back to the original motion and second to approve this new rule as presented. Is there any other discussion on the commission?
Chairman, what is on the table? I couldn't hear.
The rule as presented is back on the table. The tabling or the rolling of the rule is not.
And we're at the point of voting.
I've just got a question. Well, this is just, if this were to fail, will we be prohibited from reconsidering it? Because I actually think there's a path if we, I wonder, I would personally love to see this studied. I'd love to see what our flexibility is under the rulemaking process. I'd love to be able to do that next week. If this fails today, is staff prohibited from bringing a related topic up? Or if it fails, can you bring something different you can study over the month?
Yeah,
And bring something back?
The biggest difference is if the rule fails today as opposed to being rolled.
Right.
We would have to, any additional action that we would take, we would have to restart the process from the beginning, which would be to make a new rule filing, a new notice of rule hearing, which would start a new 50-day clock. But anything that the commission does in this regard doesn't foreclose us bringing this topic back. It just would reset the process and create a longer process for us to effectuate any action. by filing a whole new rule.
Okay, but it's a 50-day delay. It's not the end, we're not forever prohibited.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But if the legislature acts in the meantime, as you observed previously, Commissioner, then it's done and we haven't had an opportunity to pass something that we can revisit later.
I agree, and I mean, I would love to move it to next month. I also know that 50 days, we're gonna be back before the second Tuesday in January, and there's 50 days in between now and then, and so I think either way, we've got flexibility, so I don't think it's the end of the world, whichever decision we make.
That's just a point of housekeeping. The amendment to roll the rule has been withdrawn. We are back on to Rule 1660-01-28 as presented. It has been, a motion has been presented and appropriately seconded. Is there any other discussion regarding this?
I got a question for Chris.
Commissioner?
Chris, I'm looking at the lifetime, and I know the reasoning behind this is because some legislation was about to be introduced for a lifetime license. But I'm looking at the cost of a lifetime license. The majority of those folks are going to fall between 7 years old and older. Financially speaking, I mean, which way is better? I mean, I'm looking at $66 a year if what they're going to pay for a resident license. If they have to buy a lifetime license, it's going to cost $2,000 essentially. It's going to take a long time.
The critical difference is the way the lifetime license fund is set up, and any money that goes to the lifetime license fund it goes into the endowment fund. It does not come into the general aid. The revenue associated with lifetime licenses does not come into the agency as general operating revenue, so it is different. Now, that's not to say that if the commission wanted to entertain a lifetime license for non-resident native Tennesseans, that they could set that up outside the existing lifetime license statute. But I think Commissioner Watson and the agency, having looked at it, annual licenses generally over time prove to be the better option than lifetimes as far as finances are concerned for the agency.
I'm not for a lifetime license. I'm just asking that question.
May I, Commissioners, there is a lot of discussion and a lot of questions right now. And I sense that we may need a season of a little more information. I don't like the process of this failing coming back in 50 days. I just don't. That doesn't feel right to me, and we've not operated that way. Is there any strong objection to this being rolled to give staff some time to answer some of these questions?
I would make that motion.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second to roll this? Seconded by Commissioner Woodson. Is there any discussion on the rolling? Commissioner Cox, do you want to offer any other thoughts? Okay.
How long are we rolling it for?
This would be rolled to the September meeting.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
I would like staff to try to answer all the questions we've thrown out there between now and then, if the rolling passes.
I have a good handle on the questions that have been presented today. I'll certainly address those. And any other questions that you have relative to this rule, if you want to email me, I can certainly address any concerns or questions.
Commissioner Cook?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to say something in support of Commissioner Ripley. I agree that I think I would approve this or be in favor of this, and something that, you know, here in Tennessee, fortunately, we have this great culture of hunting and fishing, and so much of the time it's a family issue. And I love the idea of families coming back to hunt and fish. And I'm thinking, too, especially since we don't know that it's going to be that substantial of a revenue issue, we don't know that yet. But, you know, I'm thinking it might be one of these deals where the resident comes back, he has his license, but then the spouse, the family, other folks are buying licenses that they might not have bought otherwise. So there's possibly a positive to this as well.
Commissioner Cox?
I'd like to know for sure, because it may have to be done by hand, how you would determine if after a year it's not what the fiscal note is. How would you do that?
The one thing that we'll certainly be able to identify, the way that this rule reads and the way that these licenses have to be processed, is they are all going to be processed in the Nashville office. They have, just like our lifetime licenses. So the with the previous year's history of license buying. So you would be able to very easily identify whether someone who had purchased a non-resident license last year now qualified and purchased a native son or daughter license this year. So I do think that through some data mining through our system, we would be able to tell you with a certain degree of accuracy the financial impact after a full license year of this.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the public or staff? Hearing none, we have Commissioner Watson.
If I understand this correctly, they had to present their birth certificate and a valid ID, photo ID.
That's correct.
So this takes away from me coming home, showing up at my parents' farm and deciding tomorrow morning I want to go deer hunting. I can't do that unless I have my birth certificate with me and I have all this, and I got to send it to the center.
That's
main
correct.
office.
That's correct.
So this is going to be a very difficult license to get. It's not going to be just go on the internet and do it.
To be clear, in year one, or the first time that a native son or daughter would apply for this license, there would be increased processing time in exactly the same manner that we process a lifetime now. After that individual has been processed and proved to be a native son or daughter, their client record that we have in our system can reflect that they are in fact a native son or daughter. And so in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, they would be able to go online or go and purchase the license at the resident cost, because that record would reflect that they've already proven that they were a native son or daughter. So there would be increased processing the first time someone applied for this, but after that, it would be a very simple process.
I don't think you'll sell it. I don't think it's-
Are there any other questions from the audience? Commission, we're going to vote on the amendment. I will tell you I support the amendment. Most of the questions are coming through the Government Relations Committee. And if this amendment passes, I would ask that between now and the next meeting that maybe this rule be vetted through the committee, and so that we have the committee support coming into this. This had to come before us today without that vetting because of timing issues. If this gets rolled, I think that timing has been created. That's enough on my sermon. We will not do a roll call vote. We will do just a voice vote on the amendment to roll consideration of this rule to the September meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Rule number 1660-01-28.11, rules and regulations governing license and permitting fees. Permit fees will be rolled to the September meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission.
Commissioners, that concludes all the business that was on the agenda. Is there any other business that the commission wishes to bring before this body?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize some individuals. A month or so ago, Commissioner Holbert and I traveled to Savannah with some agency staff to talk to the Tennessee Valley Farmers Group about White Oak Bottoms WMA and its impact on the neighbors. And we had a very good meeting. It was very productive. We got the ball rolling on a plan. We're waiting on some survey stuff, but the gentlemen are here, and I'd like to recognize them, and please come to the mic.
Thank you, Commissioner Bledsoe, and thank you, Chairman Cannon, for allowing me to speak. My name is Ron Robertson. I'm the Vice President of the Tennessee Valley Farmers, which is an organization of landowners who farm and own land in the Tennessee River floodplain in Hardin, Decatur, Chester, McNairy, and Henderson County. Our organization is fairly new, and it was formed as a result of the 2013 flooding of the Tennessee River, which has destroyed several $1 million worth of our crops in the counties below Pickwick Dam. Our purpose is to work with government agencies that have a direct impact on the drainage of our farmland adjacent to the Tennessee River. Many of us have several $1 million invested in land and crops that are grown in the very fertile soils that are within the floodplain, and several of those farms joined the White Oak WMA that is controlled by TWRA. Some of you are aware of the drainage issues we've had. Commissioner Bledsoe and Hobart were gracious enough to arrange a meeting, and we sincerely appreciate that meeting. We appreciate the effort you put into getting the people there. We appreciate Mr. Wilson and Mr. Richardson from Nashville coming down and visiting with us. We had a group of about 24 farmers there. And we had the local management team from the Jackson office there as well. We felt we had a very frank and open discussion, and we hope to quickly move forward with a plan to resolve some of these drainage issues around the WMA. With the help of West Tennessee River Basin Authority. In the past, many of our members have had an adversarial relationship with TWRA regarding these drainage issues. We hope that we can change that relationship to one of cooperation, because we believe that both the farmers and TWRA can meet the goals of improve or adequate drainage for our farmland and improved habitat, wildlife habitat, hunting and fishing on the WMA. I would ask you as governing commissioners of this great agency to encourage your management team to work with us and resolve these drainage issues and establish a plan that will allow the drainage of our farmland and restore the WMA to the hunting paradise that it once was. Our organization believes that both the farmers, hunters, and TWRA can achieve our goals if we can work together. I've included the word quickly several times in this intentionally because we currently have a situation around Milledgeville and the northern boundary of the WMA that is continually experiencing flooding from small rain events. It's my feeling that TWRA has some liability in this issue. You may or may not know of a suit that was brought by, I was a party in a suit that was brought against WMA in the Western Division of the Claims Commission. And I would like to point out that there continues to be the liability for the drainage issues around these WMAs, this one in particular. I'm not by any means threatening any suit. I just want you to understand that we had a very favorable ruling by the judge, and I actually have some of the copies with me if you'd like them. If it pleases the chairman, we can give you some of those, give you a copy of that ruling. If you have a little trouble sleeping in that, it might help. But if you ever decide to read it, it's fairly long. But we just want to move forward. We don't want to be going back to court. We want to get this resolved. And I believe we can. And this is the second time it's gone to court, and we've won both times, and two different commissioners. So it's just not a good way to use state resources going to court. And we feel like we can move forward and try to get something done here. And we certainly would appreciate your encouragement to your management team, because we really need to move on this and hope that you will hold them accountable for getting something done. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, thank you for your comments. Let me offer you this. Respectfully, we don't have to encourage, because that action is already taking place. The fact that that meeting took place, Commissioner Bledsoe being a part of that, as well as Commissioner Holbert, the director, assistant director are actively involved. This is going in a good direction. And we appreciate the cooperation you all have. We value the relationship with the farming community. There's no doubt about that. We have locked arms over the past 5 years like I don't think has been locked in many years. So know that it is going forward. know that it will be done promptly, quickly. You have our word on that, sir, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to come today. Commissioner Bledsoe, is there anything you want to offer?
I appreciate the gentleman coming. I think they were surprised that our next meeting is in Pickwick. It could have saved them a little drive time, so. But they do have the advanced survey, elevation surveys are complete. I think they're still in the process of reading them, and then when we get with those, we'll get with TVA and the Corps and start working on a development plan or something. So I just appreciate y'all coming. Thank you.
Commissioner Holbert?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank them for coming, and also I know the president of their organization would have liked to have been here. Alex, I know his dad got hurt in a farming accident. Just let him know our thoughts and prayers are with him. Wish he could have been here. Good guy. But anyway, that's all I want to say.
Commissioner Swan, I believe you want to recognize someone?
I'd like to recognize a outdoor writer in the back of the room, Richard Sims, a former TWRA wildlife officer, former I&E guy, formerly with the local Chattanooga newspaper, formerly with WTVC Channel 9, and now a so-called fishing guide in Chattanooga. Richard?
Mr. Sims, did you want to speak to the commission on a matter? I'd heard you did. And realizing that we know you well, if you wouldn't mind stating your name, just so we have it on the record, and we'll give you 5 minutes if that's okay.
I won't take that long, I promise. My name's Richard Sims. You just heard my biography. Currently, my paying job is as a fishing guide in Chattanooga. And I may be very late in what I'm bringing up here, or I may be very early. I don't know which. But I'm here put quite simply to ask that whenever the commission readdresses hunting and fishing licenses, that you consider reinstating a one-day non-resident fishing permit. As a fishing guide, I did a little audit the other day, and me and my partners this year have escorted in the vicinity of 450 or 500 people on fishing trips in the Chattanooga area. I don't know the breakdown on non-residents, but I know it's a very large percentage, maybe 50%, maybe more, maybe less. And we're on the front lines of telling these people who want to go out on a 4-hour fishing trip with us that, sorry, you have to buy a 3-day license. And I've actually had people, decline trips. You got a family of 3 or 4, they're looking at a cost of an additional $60 or $80 to buy a 3-day permit for a 4-hour fishing trip. And I know I'm not alone in this. Had some conversations with Ed when the licenses were restructured and you did away with the 1-day permit, and he gave me some figures on what he felt like would be the additional revenue or lost revenue as a result of this. And it was a pretty good number. Ed can probably tell you exactly what it was, but I would put forth that the gains or losses in ill will toward the state of Tennessee are potentially more costly. So that's pretty much it. When that issue comes up, if a 1-day non-resident fishing permit isn't on that list, I certainly hope that one of you ladies or gentlemen will make a motion to put it back on the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Thank you for all you do for this state. Any other thoughts from the commission? Commissioner
I want to
Swan?
add about Richard. Last year, I caught an 80-pound blue cat with him. He's got it on his website now. It's 200 pounds.
Commissioners, any other thoughts from the public? Director Carter?
No, sir. Once again, though, thanks for all the work on the budget and the preparation there, and that went through that, and as well as the rulemaking hearings, and I just appreciate your participation.
Commissioners, well done on a lot of fronts. We've covered a lot of ground over the past few months. I want to take this time to, have we got most of the Region 3 staff in here that have helped put this together? John? Yes, sir. Is everybody in here? On behalf of the commission, you all knocked it out of the park, and I am not the least bit surprised. And I'd like to give you a round of applause. I don't have many good ideas, but I'll take credit for trying to spread this out across the state, and it has been a real privilege to be in this region. So thank you for hosting us the way you have. Just well done. If it,
Also like to add, like, the participation from the Chamber of Commerce was great.
Absolutely, absolutely. The mayors that attended yesterday and last night, I mean, it's been like coming home. Of course, it is coming home for you, Commissioner Bledsoe, that's another story. So, but no, really, this has felt like home, and that means a lot. So, staff, thank you for all that you've done in preparing for this. You've made this go so much easier. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Before we adjourn, Commissioner Holbert, would you like to share about our next meeting?
Yes, I would. It'll be at Pickwick Landing State Park, September 15th and 16th. I'd like to urge all the commissioners, if you can get there on Wednesday night, we've got a lot of good things planned for you. It's going to be a fun trip. These ladies that have prepared the food here have gave Region 1 a hard road to follow, I have to say. So anyway, I hate to judge trips by the food, but it was good.
I think I like that kind of competition. Personally, this could be fun. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Bledsoe, and who seconded? All right, Commissioner, well, the whole group seconded. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, thank you all so much, and we'll see you in September.